Hey, welcome back to Geek Out RC. Month of June's been extremely busy. It's been quite some time since I had a chance to get down here and do some recording. June 13th is my birthday, followed closely behind is Father's Day, and then June 21st is my wife and I's anniversary. So just a super busy month for us. I started an Avante series. The Mark II was next on the list, and I do plan on getting to that. But before we move on with the Avante series, I wanted to share a couple of my birthday presents with you. One of which I received, the other I bought for myself, and that particular one has taken the top shelf in my display case over here, as it is extremely important and special, and I was looking for a long time to pick one of these up. So let's have a look at my birthday presents. The first thing I want to share with you is this. This is a Master Airbrush complete system. This includes everything that you need to get started in airbrushing all in one box. I've been wanting to get into airbrushing for a number of years now. I keep procrastinating and putting it off. So my wife and my parents picked up this starter set for me so I can finally give it a shot. This includes a single action siphoning style airbrush, as well as two dual action gravity fed airbrushes. It also includes your little mini air compressor, complete with a pressure regulator, a little water separator on there, and there's these holsters up top that you can have a couple of different airbrushes with different colors and needle sizes all set up ready to go, so you can quickly switch between them in the middle of a project. And then you have your braided 6-foot airline to connect your airbrushes to the compressor. So everything you need, and I just could not be more excited to finally try my hand at airbrushing after contemplating it for a number of years. And one of the first projects I'm going to be getting myself into is this one. And as many of you know that bought this Kyosho Optima Mid 87 World Spec, they don't sell this mint green color pre-mixed. So if you want to build your car up and paint it, sticker it up like the box art, you have to mix your own mint green to match the molded plastic mint green wheels that are included in the kit. And there's a couple of different mix ratios or recipes, if you will, online on how to do that. So my wife also, for my birthday, got me some Proline paints. We picked up a fine digital scale here, some reducer, and I will be trying my hand at mixing up some of this mint green color, and then hopefully this Optima Mid World Spec that you see in the display case here with no body on it can finally get completed after over a year of sitting there naked in my display case. So very excited to finally have an airbrush, and probably do a few videos. Maybe I'll do a video on mixing up this paint and painting up this Optima Mid. So stay tuned for that. Now this next item is very near and dear to me. I spent over a year searching eBay almost every single day looking for a nice, clean example of one of these. This is a 1987 Tyco Super Turbo Hopper. And the reason this car is so special is because this is the first radio controlled car that I had as a kid. I will share a mildly embarrassing photo of me opening this car Christmas Day, 1987. And up until that point, I had only ever had remote control cars with the wire that tethered the remote and the car together. So when you would drive that around, you would have to run behind it. And when I got this car and set it down on the ground and was able to just stand in one place or sit and drive this car and not have to give chase, my mind was blown. And it just opened up a whole new world. I was hooked. I was in love with radio control. And to be able to open this up 38 years later and have a nice, clean example of one in my collection now is just awesome. The car was super clean when I got it. I still pulled it apart. It was a little dusty, probably from sitting on display in somebody else's collection, judging by the condition of it. Just give it a real quick wash and clean and detail, and blew some of the dust out of the inside off the circuit boards and popped everything back together. A little fresh grease on some of the front pivot points in the front suspension, and I just couldn't be more thrilled to have such a clean, pristine example of this buggy. Now that I own it again, and having collected RC for a number of years, I'm definitely seeing a lot of Tamiya influence in this buggy. The bigwig comes to mind with those roof scoops and the front suspension mounts and shocks. I'm also seeing the Tamiya boomerang in the body and the wing and the wheels, and the tires are really on both of those cars, so a lot of heavy Tamiya influence in the design of this car for sure. But just a awesome piece of RC history for me, and I just could not be happier to have this in my collection. So it dawned on me really for the first time while I'm sitting here filming, looking up in my display case at a Kyosho JJ, that while I was 10 years old zooming this Tyco Super Turbo Hopper around my yard, Joel Johnson was in Great Britain piloting his Kyosho Ultima to a world championship victory. And that also got me thinking about the hobby grade versus toy grade, and while this was sold in toy stores like KB Toys and Toys R Us and Child World, that was our toy store here locally, Child World. There's a lot of features on this little car that make it seem more hobby grade. This had front and rear gear differentials on it. It was shaft driven 4-wheel drive, so your gearbox was in the rear, a lot like your Grasshoppers and Hornets. You had a slow and a fast speed rocker back here, so you could switch it into slow speed. If I was tackling a hill with some loose gravel or something on it, I'd switch it into slow speed, and then you could switch it back over into high speed after you got up to the top. On the sides here, you had twin 280 sized motors on each side of the gearbox back here. And then you had a wire connecting the rear gearbox to the front differential for your 4-wheel drive. So to me, it wasn't toy grade. This was a hobby grade, and it was everything I needed as a 10-year-old to have an absolute blast out in my lawn. One of the most famous aspects of Tyco's cars from back in the day was their turbo boost. So when you gave it throttle, the stick would it would almost feel like it stopped. You'd meet resistance at the top here. And if you just pushed a little harder, it would go into turbo mode. Maybe you can read turbo in there. And man, I'll tell you, when you were a kid, it was like you hit the nitrous button. You'd hit turbo mode and the car would just take off, had a boost of power, and that was just the greatest thing. If you get a look at the bottom of the chassis here, you can see it was definitely driven a little bit, but it looks a heck of a lot better than my car did back in the 80s. Super clean for what you're going to find nowadays on eBay and different places. Another neat little fact, that S714 sticker that you see there, I think was typically put in the battery compartment out of harm's way. This one was stuck on the bottom of the car for whatever reason. I'm kind of amazed it survived all these years. If you took the battery cover off of your radio and looked inside of there, you would find the matching sticker. So you would know that you had the matching radio to go with the car. And it's just super cool that I have a matching set that I was able to pick up after all these years. They both survived and stayed together, so very cool. Now, the radio used a single 9-volt battery to power it, and the car unbelievably used 8 AA batteries in the bottom here to power it. So thankfully, when you bought this car, it came with 8 rechargeable AA nickel cadmium batteries, and it came with a charger that I think charged your batteries in 4 hours, if I remember correctly. So that seemed like an eternity to wait when you were a kid and you just wanted to get out there and run your car again. But I'm sure the parents were overjoyed that they didn't have to keep pumping 8 AA's at a time into this car to keep their kids happy. Now, I'm sure many of you are just dying to know, does this car actually work? And I'm very happy to show you that it most certainly does. I don't have any intention of driving this. It's going to strictly be for display, but just to show you and let you hear. Ooh, there's your turbo boost. So you push initially and then turbo. And the steering was not proportional. And the steering only works while you're in forward or reverse. I'm not real sure why they did that, but that's the way that it is. Here's your turbo. Very cool. So that is the other birthday present that I wanted to share with you that I unintentionally bought for myself. I really don't buy myself birthday presents anymore. It just so happens that after over a year of searching and waiting, that this absolute perfect example of an 87 Tyco Super Turbo Hopper came up on eBay. I was able to purchase it, and it showed up on my doorstep the day before my birthday. So thank you so much to the seller for finding this car and listing it for sale, and thanks to all of you for watching. And until next time, take care.